Hey y'all.
Hey,
Welcome to Southern Sober and Sassy. How are
what's
y'all doing
up?
today?
Hey, y'all.
So, I was talking to Christy. Imagine that.
We talk a lot.
And I wanted to approach a conversation. I'm going to turn this volume up for everyone. So, I wanted to approach a conversation of, do you have a fear of missing out, or do you have a fear of being asked?
Hmm. Hmm.
Do you have a fear of missing out, or do you have a fear of being asked? I think I had both. Well, I don't think, I know I had both in early sobriety and recovery. I was worried about missing out, but I was more importantly fearful of being asked, especially when my friends who were still drinking, drugging, but they didn't think I knew they were drugging. But they were still drugging. But also, they were still drinking. A lot of times in my early recovery, they didn't want to ask me anywhere because they were fearful that I wasn't allowed to be around that. Even my family,
Mm-hmm.
some of my family members, they didn't want to ask me to do anything because they didn't know what my boundaries were. And, you know, I didn't grow up in recovery, and nor
Mm-hmm.
did they.
They were walking on eggshells.
Oh my gosh, absolutely walking on eggshells. And then, you know, after I got settled and got into a routine, I stopped being asked by a lot of people to do anything. They were fearful because, you know, well, she's just a stick in the mud.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't do anything anymore. She can't have fun. And Christy, that lingered probably for the first year and a half of my recovery after being home, is feeling like I was friendless, had lost people in my life. In all actuality, God removed, like picked me up and pulled me out of those circles, which I'm
Mm-hmm.
grateful for. But I was I was fearful to make new friends. I had still had that shame and guilt and just fear overall. And once I started working an honest program, which I was grateful for, I realized that I wasn't missing out on anything, and I wasn't fearful of being asked because I had a strong program. But most importantly, I was not fearful of being asked because I learned the word no.
Mm.
And I learned what served me and what didn't serve me. And I wanted to be surrounded by people who, in I guess my words, that we're walking the same walk, not just talking it,
Mm-hmm.
but walking the same walk. And we may have had different lives, but we had a unity of that community and that vibe tribe of people who not only wanted to stay sober, but more importantly, wanted to live life full. And I think that, that fear of missing out, especially when we first get sober, but also that fear of being asked, and how do we handle being caught in the middle, and which way do we go? And, that delusional thinking can take over because we feel like we don't have friends, and then we feel like we're fearful of being asked to do anything with new friends because they don't know us, we don't know them. And so I think sometimes we isolate in the beginning of recovery because we're just so fearful of what direction to go in.
Well, early recovery is such a shock to the system.
Mm-hmm.
It is a shock to us, it is a shock to the family. And going back to the family walking on eggshells, no one knows what to do in early recovery. You don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, and neither does the family. Everyone's walking around on eggshells because we have disrupted king habit. We have disrupted king dysfunction. We have disrupted all of the habits that everyone played a role. Everyone played a part. the people pleaser, the martyr, the enabler,
The rescuer.
the rescuer, and all of a sudden you get sober and nobody needs to play those parts anymore. And it's everyone is walking around just dumbfounded. They don't know what to do. And so it does take time. The most important thing is to just stay sober, 1 hour at a time and 1 day at a time, no matter what. And, the shock will then fall into acceptance. And with acceptance, you'll get that awareness and you'll start to learn. And the habits that we so quickly disrupted, those old habits will become new habits, but it's a shock to the system and the whole family unit there in the beginning. And the most important thing is to just stay sober during that shocking time more than anything else. Because what is normal is for you and I to drink and drug.
Absolutely.
And so, it's very abnormal for me to be sober. It's very abnormal for you to be sober. And it's very abnormal for everything to be okay in my household.
Mm-hmm.
And my children did not know how to live in peace. It gets real quiet real quick in early sobriety because the chaos is gone, the tornado is gone, and it is just a deafening silence. And it is like, okay, well, everything is okay, don't screw it up. Don't screw it up. Everything is okay. Just let the okay become the new habit. And
That's hard.
it is hard. It's very uncomfortable, and it it's actually what is healthy. And it'll make you realize real quick, the whole family will realize real quick just how unhealthy everyone has been operating in such an unhealthy environment and cycle and pattern. And it's sad and it's shocking, but once that piece turns into a week or 2 weeks, if you just don't get in there and mess it up, then everyone will start to become more comfortable. And so there's that about the family. The fear of missing out, Amy and I, we were talking about this before we started the podcast, and I immediately answered her and said, I didn't have any, I didn't have to worry about fear of missing out because they rejected me. I mean, I was the girl, I partied with about 10 other hardcore partiers, and they all said to me, don't invite her anymore. And that got my attention. That is when I really started to isolate and drink at home more. But, um, and then the other thing is fear of being invited. I didn't have to worry about that because they had washed their hands of me. There were so many people that had washed their hands of me that I I didn't really have to worry about that because they were just so disgusted with me, which is a very sad and embarrassing thing to say, but it is the truth. And so enter all of these new people that are in the rooms, and I start meeting all these new people, and they want my phone number, and my phone starts filling up with all those AA people in recovery. And I'm like, oh, I'd get a text or my phone would ring, and I'd be like, oh, it's those people. And it was just something that I was moving out of old friends and into new friends, moving out of old thinking into new thinking, old behavior into new behavior. And I I had to let that happen, not make it happen. I just had to let it happen. But here's the thing that really got my attention more than anything else. There was a wise woman back in Nashville, And I was talking about this same thing to her. I said, "What about all my old friends? What about them? What about that? What about them?" And she said, "Christy, you go work the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and then tell me how many of them are still around."
Yeah.
That got my attention. There, and she said, "Whoever is still around after you work the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous is a true friend." And she said, "Therefore, that should tell you that those people that you were hanging around with were not your real friends." And this is where it got real. She said, "They were using you and you were using them." And when I finally took full responsibility for my lot and I stopped with all the denial and the yeah buts, I did say to her, "You know what? You're right. I used this person because she had the beach house. I used this person because she had the jet skis.
Mm-hmm.
I used this person because he had the mushrooms. I used this person because he had the acid. They used me because I had the money for the alcohol. And I used this person because she had all the money for, or she had the contact for the cocaine."
Yeah.
So they were using me, I was using them, and I went and I worked the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. None of them were around anymore. I still love all of those people, but um, they're not still around. I cannot afford to hang around people that are in active addiction because my thinking will change in 5 minutes. Not 5 hours or 5 days.
5 minutes, yeah.
In 5 minutes, I'll be if I start hanging out with those people, I'm gonna start thinking about dancing on top of a bar, and driving drunk, going on a 3 day blackout, flashing everybody, hanging out with crazy men, and you know, doing big old lines of cocaine. Blah 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 blah. Anyway, I'm glad I don't live like that anymore. But my thinking can change so quickly, and here's what it boils down to: I don't trust my own thinking when it comes to that old life. I know myself that well, and I cannot and I will not hang out with people in active addiction. Been there, tried that, and that includes my family as well. I cannot do it, and I will not do it. I will not do it.
Yeah.
There's a high price to pay for protecting your sobriety
Peace, too.
and your peace.
Peace.
Yeah, high price to pay.
Yeah. All my friends were removed to me organically. When I was indicted, everybody was scared shitless that I was going to tell on them, which, by the way, I never did. Organically, they were just all removed. It was
They
pretty
were
funny.
organically indicted.
They were, yeah. They were fearful that we can't talk to her because she's going to tell on us, which, I never did because it's not my story. And I never did either because, I never told because it wasn't my place at the time. I was offered by the prosecutor all these, well, not all these deals, but, if you can just tell us about this one person. And I said, and I said a few choice words, but basically I said, you're the prosecutor. It's your job. That's your deal, not mine.
Mm-hmm.
And my attorney was looking at me like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing? I said, that's never who I've been. And I'm not. Mm-hmm. I'm not that person. And so they were plucked out of my life very early because they were scared, again, shitless, I was going to rat on them.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't because it wasn't my story to tell. Even in the midst of my addiction and active disease, because I was still drinking then, and trying to sly in the drugs too, even before I went away, and taking the P test so I'd clear it so I could still party, which, God had a plan. And he he was there for me and took care of me, the God of my understanding, and he protected me. And I even remember when I went away, and some of the girls I was in, prison with, federal prison, they were not doing what they were supposed to be doing. And I never forget, Christy, this thing. It's like if you tell on, we had to hold them accountable. And treatment centers do this all the time with people's behaviors to try to change them. And they were like, we need you to tell us what's going on. No, nope. I stay in my lane.
Mm-hmm.
And I refused to do that because it wasn't my job, even though they said, part of your growth is being able to say and see something, say something. But I was like, oh, no, I didn't want to get my ass beat either. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so
Stayed on your side of the street.
I stayed on my side of the street way before I ever heard that in a 12-step program. I think, too.
But that's good. That shows, that you were loyal and faithful and a very good friend deep down inside, even when you were drinking and drugging.
And that's been, speaking of that, that's been a big part of my recovery, but it's also been a downfall in my recovery.
Yeah.
Staying loyal to people who continue to burn me. Staying loyal to people who hurt my feelings. Staying loyal to people who hurt my heart, and never giving up, and it's like, God's like, what are you doing? You didn't get sober to feel this way. You didn't get sober to stay in chaos. You didn't get sober. Well, what are you doing? He said, it's like, we had the queen, you go back to ancient times, the beheading of Queen Mary. They call her, the Queen of Hearts. It's like I was the queen of chaos. And God was like, get that stinking thinking head off of you.
Mm-hmm.
Get it off of you. You're not missing out on anything. What are you missing out on? What are you missing out on? Getting sober, what am I missing out on? Being alone? I'd rather be alone than be treated like crap. Number 2, are you missing hangovers? Are you missing sending out texts and emails
and blackouts?
And blackouts. What about, are you missing waking up on time in the morning and having a good day? Do you miss the headaches? The consequences of my drug and alcohol abuse, the consequences were so in depth. And once I got sober, I didn't want to feel that anyway. I didn't want to feel that way anymore, and didn't even want to tap my toes in the water of the what ifs, and also saying, this is another thing, Christy, that I've learned, because I remember a doctor saying you have generalized anxiety disorder, because I am an introvert. And if I get in a crowd of people where I feel uncomfortable, I just kind of shut down and I just pull back, and I'm okay by myself. I'm not isolating to where I don't talk to people, but I'm okay in that fear of missing out, that fear of being asked, as if it's like, if it's after 7:00 at night, I am, listen, I'm already in my
PJs.
I already had dinner and I'm on the couch, or I'm, watching a video, or I'm going to bed, and I don't mean to, there's probably people listening but like, what the hell, that is no life, going to bed that early. That's not our point, but I'm just saying, I would rather be home and safe than go out and risk it, to put myself in situations that I already know, number 1, I don't need to be in. But this is the biggest thing, you all. Number 2, I don't want to be there. Why do I want to risk my recovery, not only being in a place where I don't need to be, but also being around people that I don't want to be around, or putting myself in a position to be in something I don't need to be in. Life is peaceful. Life is good. And, there's so many things we can do in recovery. I can do everything is available for us to experience life with clear eyes, clear mind, clear nose. Life is not boring. And the fear of being asked or invited, like you said, I don't fear that anymore, because if I don't want to go, or if I don't want to do it, I'm going to say, hey, thanks for the invite, but no thanks. And I don't feel like, we talked about this a few weeks ago, I don't feel like I need to explain myself why I'm
Right.
not going.
Right.
I'm not going because I'm not going.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah.
But, I don't, yeah.
One thing about um, people in recovery, we are very active people, and it's almost like we are overactive. And you know, I Amy and I, we walk a lot, and that I walk for numerous reasons. One of the main reasons is to calm down my squirrel brain, but cutting grass or, trimming the trees or cutting the neighbor's grass or walking or, those are things that I stay active at my own home. But people in recovery are, rarely do we sit still. There is always an activity that someone is organizing somewhere, somehow, some way, a party, an event, a beach party, a kayak trip, a spiritual weekend, spiritual retreat weekend, or a yoga session, or I mean, we are constantly moving, and we that is a good thing for people in recovery, but we don't need to overdo it. Balance is key with everything. It's just like what Amy was talking about, because I work from home too. I don't need to be, I love being at home, but past day 3, I need to get my butt out of my house. I need to go socialize. I need to be a part of the world and society. And I go to minimum 3 meetings a week. I'm still very active in the program of AA, and so I am very active, but I'm not too much, and I am aware of that too much. And the opposite of that is too little.
Yeah.
And I Amy and I know each other very well. If Amy starts to isolate too much, then I'll call her and be like, "Yo, what is you doing? You've been in the house 4 days now, homie G. Get up. Come on, let's go do something. I don't care if you don't want to. We're going to go do it anyway." On the flip side, Amy could call me and be like, "You've been working for 4 days straight. Stop working.
Let's go have some
We
fun."
Let's go have some fun. We need to go to the beach." And she will make me realize that, hey, I'm going into that extreme land. Or I can make her realize, hey, you're going into that extreme land. And that is another wonderful thing about new friends in sobriety and new friends in recovery, is we hold each other accountable in a very healthy way. Back my old friends, the only thing I was holding accountable is how much cocaine have we got and who's got it, and how much alcohol do we have left, and who's going to run to the store to get it. I was just holding the unhealthy things accountable. Now I have a healthy lifestyle. I have healthy thinking. I have a healthy body. I have a healthy mind. I have healthy spirituality. And I absolutely 100% adore my life. And I will do anything to keep it. And I've worked so hard for my happiness that I will not let anyone take that away from me. And I have to let people into my circle, and I and let them know me to where they can still hold me accountable, and vice versa, in a very kind and loving way. I'm still wild. I'm still crazy. I love living on the edge. And I think I was just born that way, drunk and sober. I mean, but I don't, I still like living on the edge, but I know when to know better,
Yeah.
and I don't need to take it that far. But I always thought that sobriety would be boring, and thank God I was proven wrong. It is not, and I'm not missing out on puking and bloodshot eyes and blackouts and calling out of work and dislocated body parts. I'm not missing out on any of that anymore.
No.
I'm not missing out on that at all. I tell you what I miss out on now is how many people can I help to help them recover.
Yeah, and just knowing that we've been there. We've been there and we were there in the early parts and we can help you walk through those early stages of recovery. Stop trying to figure it out all today. This is a program of one day at a time, but and I'm sure this was coined a long time ago from someone besides me, but it's 15 minutes at a time. Whatever you're facing in early recovery, we're here to help. That's our role, is to be supportive, to kindly and softly, but the word tough lovingly, tough love. People don't like that word, so you can look at it as the ABCs: accountability, boundaries, and consequences. And when our family has the ABCs of recovery and they're sitting there saying, hey, listen, accountability, I've worked with I've worked with a lot of people. I'm grateful for that, and so is Christy. But it's so funny when people first get sober and the family's like, I'm just fearful of telling them they have a curfew, and they're an adult living in their parents' home, and their parents are older, and their parents don't want to set a curfew time. And it's like, you set the time, and if they don't like it, they can go figure it out somewhere else. I mean, just like Christy talked about the family piece in the beginning, families are so fearful when they're in active addiction, their loved one's in active addiction. They're even so much more fearful because in recovery, because they've been comfortable to the chaos. You're allowing the queen of chaos or the king of confusion run your household, and
it's predictable.
It is predictable. It's going to happen. But guess what? Change will predict the future for you too. If you're uncomfortable in new boundaries, you're right where you need to be. You are right where you need to be. If you're the loved one, if you are the addict or alcoholic or someone who's been struggling with untreated mental health or addiction, and you're newly walking this path in recovery, uncomfortable promotes change. And it's okay to sit in the uncomfort until you have support that's going to come in, whether it be couches, we're sitting on a couch, coaches, counselors, therapists, medical doctors. There's enough recovery meetings, and there's enough support out there to where you can have that help. You don't have to fear first of all, you don't have to have the fear of missing out, but you don't have to have the fear of not, of being asked either. You can sit in the middle. The seesaw, it doesn't have to go like this every day of your life. You can sit in the middle and it can be even. And you can live life in a peaceful, calming manner. And so can your family. And that's what we support.
So much of what Amy and I do is we come on here to help anybody with anything for the most part. Now we know that there are some things that we can't do, but we will find the resources for that. But whether you're in whether you are an addict or an alcoholic, or even if you're not, if you are a mom or a dad or
siblings,
a sibling,
cousin,
or
aunt,
a boss, or whether you struggle with codependency, if you're in Al-Anon, or whatever, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
I want to feel better. And so I'm going to go get on this podcast and let Amy and Christy help me get better. That's basically what our goal is we're just here to help you get better. We fill in the blank. We don't care. 90% of the time, Amy and I have been there and done that. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but you get to reap the benefits of that. But and then that other 10% of the time, Amy and I, if we don't know, we will help you get the resource that you do need. And Amy and I get very curious when we don't know things because we are still very teachable. So we're going to learn right along with you. When you ask us a question, and we don't know the answer to it, we're going to tell you, I don't know, but I'm sure going to find out.
Exactly.
And so you get to learn and we get to learn at the same time. Here's one last thing that I wanted to say, and Amy was talking about being uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable is so it's such an uncomfortable feeling that it can make us relapse. And just know that feeling uncomfortable, there is not very many people who can sit in that uncomfortable place with all your feelings pulled out and your guts laid on the table, and you're sitting there talking about your defects and your pain and your guilt and your shame. Not very many people can do that. Give yourself some credit
And some grace that
and
you've already
some
been
grace. The most important thing that I want to say to you is that it will pass. You will not always feel that uncomfortable. Just hold on. Hold on. The quicker that you do something, the better that you will feel.
Yeah.
Move a muscle, change a thought. Move a muscle, change a thought. Go to a meeting. Go for a walk. Call a sponsor. Reach out to Amy and I and say, give me some more homework, man. I'm very uncomfortable. I want to get better. Give me something else to read. Give me a couple more questions to answer. So always remember that uncomfortableness is very courageous. It's very honorable. Not very many people can do it. We see you, we feel you, and we are your best cheerleaders. Keep going. That feeling will pass. And yes, it is worth it.
It is. And in closing, I read, because I read all the time, but it says there was a gentleman who had talked about relapsing in sobriety. His story was in this book, and it said, I've been trying to build my sobriety around my life instead of building my life around my sobriety. Mm-hmm. I don't take my sobriety for granted anymore. Mm-hmm. You know,
yeah. So good.
You don't have to. You don't have to take it. You just say, okay, here I am, and I'm sober. And it is not about trying to pull in people that will fit into this circle. It is about being humble and being grateful and saying, okay, higher power greater than myself. I need help just for today. And you get to walk this path one day at a time. The people will come, the friends will come, the job will come, the family will come back. It will happen, but you have to make a commitment to make that first step up the stairs and say, okay, I'm ready.
Gotta let it happen. Don't make it happen.
Yeah, you just
let it happen.
And you get to do it. You don't have to do it. I want you, if you get frustrated and you say, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, why don't you change that word to have and say, I get. That is where the gratitude is in.
Yes.
So remember, you are grateful to get to do it because you woke up this morning.
Yep.
You woke up this morning, and today is going to be a beautiful day. I want you to be grateful for it, and we love you.
Woo, baby.
Yes, and we will talk soon. We hope you all have a fabulous rest of your day and week.
See you next time.